Spirit of Matter. And as I'm recording this episode, it is, it is Venus Day and Jupiter Hour, which I love. So it's supposed to be a good timing to start recording. The ascendant is Mars ruled, and I'm actually talking about the Mars ingress to Leo in a Jupiter hour, which is supposed to make it a bit. It's interesting because Jupiter right now is squaring both Pluto and Mars, which is on the anaretic degree of Cancer. And Jupiter is in Taurus already. The ascendant is ruled by Mercury in the sixth degree of Taurus. So we have two Taurus ruled planet and the Venus day. So Venus is still very prominent with recording this. And Venus is in Cancer, 12 degrees of Cancer, applying to square Chiron and separating from a trine to Saturn. So yeah, Jupiter kind of makes it more benefic, yet it does contact the ruler of the topic, which is Mars. And Mars right now is in the ninth house for this chart. So I'm speaking about Mars when Mars is in the ninth house, so it's Mars teaching. And I'm speaking exactly on the ingress of Mars to Leo. And here it will be the ingress to the 10th. So oh, and we write at the new moon. It's the new moon right now here. So this is what I'm doing in the new moon. I'm talking about, wait. I'm talking about Mars ingress to Leo in the new moon, which is Venus ruled, but sextiles Mars and sextiles Neptune and trines Pluto. So we are at the new moon. So happy new moon in Taurus. And um, before I'll turn to the chart of Mars ingress, we should probably note that we are pretty much, except for the moon, already in it. But I want to, before looking at the ingress itself, I want to talk about Mars and Leo and conjoin them together. So you will have a timeless teaching from this episode. And this is 2 minutes 40 seconds. So this is where the episode begins. And so, whenever we have the conjoining of Mars and Leo, so Mars within Leo's domain, Leo is ruled by the Sun, which is yet another reason I'm talking about this now, is we have the Moon applies to the Sun, which rules where Mars is heading. So Leo is ruled by the Sun. Sun/Leo rules the heart, one of the eyes. I don't remember if it is the right or left. People who are rulers and leaders. So having, mean the king and queen of our kingdom, basically. What else we have associated is the light of intelligence, so light, solar light, shining. If you are the sun, then you are shining. Okay, I have sun in the third house. I'm recording these episodes almost every day, so I'm the sun, I'm shining. Um, and if we think about the sun and solar sun, we think about the light that is coming from the sun, and that has a dual quality, which is both particle and wave, which was what we know about light. And so the sun, as intelligence or source of intelligence, has the ability to tell us um, of the non dual nature of the world, in a way. Okay? The sun is also a source of heat as much as a source of energy. Um, it's a luminary, so wherever it is, it shows something and it shines its light on something. Unlike the moon that reflects something, the sun shows something. So performers of any type, so public figures, performers of any type, also ruled by the sun. It rules the heart, so the things that are related to the heart, being true to the heart, the bravado and drama of the heart. And Leo is a fixed fire sign. So, fixed fire, if we think about cardinal fire is light in a match, mutable fire, it's the fire that spreads, okay? And fixed fire, think about a bonfire, which you constantly add wood logs to. You constantly add to the bonfire, and so the fire stays fixed and cooks your food or warms your tribe, and so on and so forth. So the fire of Leo constantly needs nourishing. That means that the Leo sun or the solar aspect of Leo is constantly nourishing as well as constantly needed. And we, on a mundane level, we say we need it needs to be worshipped. But I would like to go for a more spiritual view of this. And I recently heard Christopher Warnock interview with in a channel of Mistai, and he spoke about the relations to God as the adoration of God. So he spoke about the 99 names of Allah. We cannot have God as a master without the servant, and the master needs the servant. Okay, so it's always a relational, and sun is also paternal. It's the paternal light. Okay, it's the father. It's one of the together with Saturn. It's one of the signification of the father. Um, and so and he literally gave the analogy of father-child relation. You can see the son. Sometimes you cannot see the father, but you know that there is a father. If there is a father, there is a son. And so for Leo, there have to be those you rule upon in order for you to be a ruler, and there have to be fans in order for you to be a star. Um, and there is there is a saying, there's no smoke without fire. So it also denotes a certain relational structure where there is one central soul, and then there are the people surrounding it, or the events surrounding it, or the star, the planet surrounding it. In solar astrology, sun is the source, is the soul. So you go to the soul, you go to the sun to understand what is the essence of the soul. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not that, I only know very basic things about solar astrology. So this is the sun and Leo. So can we talk about the image of Leo? So the image of Leo, it kind of reminds it's a lion, right? So it's the lion. It's the figure of a lion, which is considered the king of the animal kingdom, um, and again that denotes a certain very tight relation of rulership, but also providing light, providing nourishment for the kingdom. Um, it's the lion is a cat, so this is the felines are associated with the lion. Um, and the image of a lion, when we look at tarot, or when we look at the Indian deities, so when you have lion in tarot, or in I don't remember which deity was it, Saraswati or Durga, I don't remember, but the concept was that the person comes as a figurine that tames the lion, that sits on the lion. And so this person that sits on the lion has the power to tame the lion. So to tame the sun, or to tame the king and the queen of the kingdom. And there is also the notion of taming the lion, in referring to taming ourselves and our desires. And this is where Mars can get in. So I'm not a tarot expert. Um, Perhaps you could tell me more about this taming the lion. But here is also where we begin to talk about Mars. So Mars, just by the glyph of it. Okay, there is something around denoting a sphere, probably. Okay, denoting the living being, and the living being has this arrow pointed. Um, and this arrow pointed is very much what we associate as the phallic shape of Mars ruled things. So think about Mars as we see Mars in sharp objects, we see Mars in tall buildings, so that we say, oh, this is phallic weapon, um, anything elongated and then either pointed or sharp. So that can be considered Mars ruled. This is also um, so spicy food, the sort of tingy and spicy food. So chilies, garlic is very much Mars associated. Plants with pointy leaves, the needles of course, but um, the thorns of a rose is Mars. Okay, and the rose is Venus. Rosemary is this pointy leaves point at involvement of Mars as rulership in the plant rosemary. Um, so Mars, think about the knife of assertion. Okay, what is the knife of assertion? And I want to speak about when Mars was in Gemini. So when Mars was, I think it was in the middle decan of Gemini, and that was where you have two options, and then you have to decide between the two. So the knife of assertion is pretty much, I'm going to concentrate my power here. Okay, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to direct myself here. I'm going to follow this direction. This is Mars, and it rules Aries, which is the head. So our focus, our mindset, our sense of self as asserting ourselves, the great I am. And Scorpio, which is actually a fixed water sign, so yet another of the fixed signs. That is the still water runs deep. Okay, this is the wisdom of contemplation, but also hidden action. Okay, it's the time where Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. Is that time of self-assertion where you cannot do it. Like if I cannot speak the truth to you, if I cannot say yes, no, and maybe to you, and for that to be accepted, I'm going to make sure my yes, no, and maybe will be accepted by any means necessary in the hidden force, in the in the hidden realm, in the physical realm, and so on and so forth. So this is Scorpio. Okay, that's the good use of Mars in Scorpio, basically. Okay, the knife of assertion, and as this planetary power delves into the domain of the kingdom. So the first thing you think about a sharp object entering the heart. Okay, so right from the get-go you understand that even though Mars rules drive and it rules a fire sign, Aries, um, it might not be the most fit in a situation where there is a fixed fire. Okay, it might not be, if the sun rules the heart or the eyes, we might want, we might not desire to have shape, yeah, sharpie objects around this, right? It's probably not the most I can think of that is desired is the eyeliner that you put next to the eye. That's a Marcy object, okay? Then later dyes the eye, and it's used as an ornament. Um, but other than that, this is not where we want sharp things to go. And the heart, okay? The only time we have sharp things around the heart that are not malefic is when we perform a surgery. And so Mars is also connected with surgery. So Mars can also be sharp words. Here, this is the more traditional interpretation, and later we associate words mainly with Mercury and still to some degree Venus. Um, so the combination of the two, okay, something that cuts through the chase and an open, vulnerable heart that constantly needs admiration, they don't go together that well. Okay, and even though Leo does trine Aries and the Sun exalts in Aries, Mars is not really exalted in Leo. Okay? It's not that it doesn't have anything to do, like you said. A heart surgeon can save a life. Okay, uh, putting your makeup with an eye with a Sharpie eyeliner can be very accurate and can make you look like a cat. Well, what do we do with eyeliner? We do cat's eye. Okay, and you think, oh, isn't makeup a Venus thing? Yes, but if you talk about something like a long, elongated, pipey thing with a sharp edge, then it is absolutely Marcy. And what we use it for mainly is to create feline like eyes. And that's actually a great use for um, Mars in Leo. When it is well aspected and when the Sun is well aspected, you could actually use it to enhance your eyes with the feline looking makeup and have cat eye. So feline looking eyes. So that's one way you could work with this energy. And another one is, of course, it's the knife of the sergeant, of the heart sergeant, because Mars also rules the head, so you can have sharp, insight, in-depth analysis of uh, leaders, of the heart itself, of the eyes, of vision, of observation, of intelligence. And so the conjoining of them, whilst not very natural, can be of great potential. So Mars Leo is Mars in the region of fixed fire. Mars is hot and dry. The Sun is hot. It's not as dry as Mars, but it is hot and dry. Um, and I'm sorry, the Sun is hot. It's not as hot as Mars. This cannot be, or is it? Because the Sun is fire. But the thing is that the Sun holds his fire, and Mars is considered the, the heat that of velocity rather than the heat of the velocity you have when you turn an object around its axis. Okay, so velocity is like when you shoot an arrow, then the velocity of the arrow in the air and the friction, which is another Mars trait, is the friction creates heat. Okay, so with the Sun, it does revolve, like it does revolve around itself. That being said, it holds its fire. It's not the fire of, well, it is the fire of velocity because the way to create heat is velocity, but it's not the pointed, directed fire that we have with Mars. So one thing to think of that comes in my mind is you can't kill fire with fire. There is a lot of heatness and dryness to this aspect. Okay, very hot, very dry. And this is why it is not all that benefic, because even though the Mars in Leo has a lot of bravado, it is so hot that it actually dries out. And what do we need in order to have fertility? We need a good balance of warmth and lubrication. So the travel for Mars and in Leo can be that it is running very hot, and although this is fixed fire, it can be more attractive than actually able to connect in a way that doesn't leave the other partner burned, and thereby the person initiating the connection or attempting the connection heartbroken. Mars is also broken things, and Leo is ruling, and the Sun rules the heart. So, yes, broken heart is also one of the significations of this aspect that can be broken heart. It can be that the person breaks hearts because they have this like bravado or they need to be worshipped, and when that is not supplied consistently, or they need to be worshipped by more than one person, although Leo is a fixed sign and would probably prefer one closer person. They do need to be worshipped by various people. And that can create all kinds of situations where the giving and receiving is not balanced, and therefore um, what happens eventually is somebody's being heartbroken, or both parties being heartbroken, um, or some people find a way to nourish the fire. So, for example, two solars can perhaps find a way to nourish the fire, and then think of where would they get the water, where would they get the land, and so on and so forth. So, um, other combinations of Mars and Leo. Mars in Leo. So, on a mundane level, it can be a leader sun that is Martian, Mars. Okay, so generals become leaders. It can be um, it can simply be a very athletic person who is a performer. Okay, so you think about martial artists and actors or actresses. Okay, so the martial artist actor, um, the martial artist, the very athletic performer. Okay, that can also mean that. It can be even a person that teaches about the wisdom of the martial arts, kind of this intellectual, very, attractive persona. Um, and attractive, I don't mean only physically, although Mars rules physicality, it also rules the words, it also rules in Leo, it's the intelligence, so it's kind of like attractive intelligence, like literally. And that can also be aggressive, so it's a ton of heat, okay, with anything that entails. Um, yeah. So Mars also rules iron. Uh, yeah, that can be used as weapon. Iron, also the absorption of iron in the body. So that's what I can think about. And this is so far as the timeless teaching goes. Now I want us to look at the ingress itself. And let's go into Astro Tools. Monthly Astro Calendar. And I'm going to try something different. So before I open this ingress of Mars into Leo, that is right now in the 29 degrees and 26 minutes of Cancer. Before I open this chart, what I want to do is to channel a message for the ingress of Mars into Leo and the passage of Mars in Leo. Yeah. So now I'm going to switch to channeling mode and see what comes up. Foundational value. Should I say that? Okay, it says for foundational value, scoring high in teachings, but not in, and it kind of like denotes to bed. I guess because of the drying effect, like it is attractive, but it's the difficulty to connect. Okay, it's kind of yellow pages, but this is the quality of Leo sometimes. Okay. Okay. Now notice Mars with the ingress, or Mars Okay, I'm not going to interpret it. What I got was a supernova of failures in belief coming towards the planet. A supernova of failings in belief coming towards the planet. Okay, this is the ingress itself, probably is the T square. So pleasing. So this is the quality of pleasing. Okay, to pleasing is not desired. Sort of like pleasing is not desired. Kind of the desired approach is to stand up for yourself at this time. So don't please anybody. Okay, so okay. Okay, so this is pretty much what I get for this. Um, and what is desired here is to stand up for yourself in this time. Okay, so there's so many beliefs that are like it's literally like a supernova of failed beliefs or failure of belief. Okay, and okay, so now I'm going to go out of like sort of out of channeling mode unless something arises, and let's look at the ingress. So as we can see, Moon is separating from Aldebaran, so it's in 11 degrees Gemini. At the time of the ingress, the ascendant is Venus ruled. Venus in 7 degrees. Venus, sorry, is. Oh, Venus is very close to the midheavens. She's in 14 degrees Cancer, which is a degree away from my moon. And Mars, of course, opposes Pluto and opposes Jupiter. This is a very tight, on the degree T square. And again, the resolution of the T square, which is supposed to be, okay, with Jupiter in 0 degree Taurus, it's supposed to be in 0 degree Pluto. 0 degree Pluto is ruled by Mars, so we have this recursive loop. And Jupiter rules beliefs. Uh, Supernova is kind of like it's something very grand. This T square is very grand. Okay, it's involving an outer planet. It's involving Jupiter, but it also involves the nodes. And so Mars is into Leo, but then there is this, I can't not repeat that supernova of failed beliefs. Okay, so um, you know that that's that's pretty much timely. Okay, because Jupiter is young in Taurus. He's just entered Taurus. It already squares. It's already with Rahu. So Rahu can be about something that needs that you can be disillusioned from. It's kind of like you go towards the Rahu place, and it's something that you need to develop in your life, but then you might over idolize. Okay, it's just that you haven't experienced that, so your soul needs to go there. But there can be disillusion When you let go completely of Keter, there can be disillusion. So if it's in Taurus financial, thriving, then you can see, okay, I have the land, I have the this, I have the that. What about emotional satisfaction, for example? And so you understand that they need to come together. And so it's important, it's very important to develop material wealth. That being said, it's not the whole story, and you can be disillusioned if you think that this is going to be the one thing that changes everything. It's important to develop it. Maybe you've never developed it before with Rahu. That being said, there is more to the picture. Okay? And the failed beliefs in this case, with this Rahu and Jupiter, can be fundamentalism. So we're gonna have, unfortunately, an explosive fundamentalist, not explosive, yes, fundamentalistic beliefs. Okay. The Sun is in 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Taurus, so she's supposed to mitigate that. She's supposed to be the grown adult. Um, Sextile in Mars, trine in this Pluto. She's on Sedna though. Okay. And I definitely need to do a separate channeling of Sedna. And that's the ingress. Okay, supernova of failed beliefs. And in the beginning, I was given this juicy kind of juicy is like what it was scoring high in teachings, but not in bed. Okay, and that's the energy. Okay, it's kind of like it's the energy where you can be a great teacher, okay? But when it comes to intimacy, there is something there. Just think of the energy of Mars in Leo, okay? It's very attractive, it's very intelligent. That being said, but it has to contact with something that is more lunar, with something that is more earthy, with something that is more Jupiterian even. Um, it is there's something going on there. Okay, there's something going on there. It's not mean that it cannot be worked out or something like that. That's not the point. Just that the initial energy is not very compatible. Okay, you can do something with it. Of course, you can work with it. You can like pretty much nearly everything can be worked with, and that is one of the things where kind of the juicy details, scoring high in teaching, but not in bed. And that is and notice the scoring, okay, the numerical like facet of it. Actual good love making is not about scoring, right? So unless that's your king, and you can already get the merit of kind of the vibe, and the supernova of failed beliefs, that which can be fundamentalism, um, and it's something that might not apply. Okay, so Jupiter has this wild fantasy here that might not be in alignment with there is intention definitely with the people, with the masses, with AI, with the way the world is going, with Pluto in Aquarius, even though it is retrograde, and with Mars here, that Jupiter may hone in on sensuality and material wealth, while Mars just wants to get the gold and get the gold and get the girls maybe, and that might not be where Venus is sitting pretty in Cancer, in the Mercury phase of it, so next to the midheaven. So Venus is closer to the midheaven in this ingress than Mars is. That may be an opening node that can be significant. And the moon is separating from Aldebaran, which has also the nature of Mars, but it also separates from a square with Saturn. That does affect it. Okay, so traditionally the moon is void of course. It's not applying to any aspect. Okay, it will take at least 2 more days, if not more, before it makes, conjunction to Venus. And then we can, try and look for an election for Moon Venus magical work. But right now, the ingress is not pretty, it's not so pretty looking. It is mitigated by the sun, but Sedna, And so, Sedna, it's the Inuit goddess, is the queen of the underworld that rules the sea creatures and has suffered betrayal from her father. And Sun is also a father figure. So the sun and Sedna probably don't naturally go together, but the sun can illuminate on the nature of the myth of Sedna and of the cosmological meridians that are associated with Sedna. But that would be for a different channeling. So now let's take a look at what Mars is doing in Leo. So here we have the Mars square Jupiter, May 23. So this is the exact square on the minute, but it's already perfecting in May 20. May 25, the exact square to the nodes, and I'm going to go to June. Here's the next month involving this Mars. June 21. So for an entire month, Mars is not making significant aspects or particular aspects. This is so interesting because we had May 25 and only in June 21 do we have Mars conjunct Lilith in Leo. So Mars is rather lonely. Okay, it's not perfecting any significant aspect here. But here we have a stellium in Leo with Venus already ingressing. So it will be co-present with Venus. I see here it's separating from a trine to Mercury. Why don't I see this trine to Mercury? Okay, so it does separate from a trine to Mercury. Sextile, sorry, to Mercury on around June 20. Then it applies to square Uranus, and it conjuncts Lilith on the 18th degree. And in the Greek theory of Nicolas Stoyanovich, this is Nicolas Stoyanovich, 18th degree is not considered easy. Okay, it's considered malefic. So on a mundane level, yes, this conjunction of Mars and Lilith can create a certain sort of rushed action that is from the gut, like releasing some gut instinct that can, although it is separating from the sextile to Mercury, so it can be maybe communicated in a certain way. Perhaps there can be a satire, a sketch, writing that is sexually provocative or aggressively provocative in a way that kind of offloads the sexual urge of aggression into a form of the written word. Okay, this is one of the best manifestations where it's kind of the Freudian concept of sublimation through the written word. So that can happen. And this is the conjunction with Lilith. And then we have the applying to square Uranus and Taurus. So we're going to have the Mars square Uranus, which is the final aspect of June for Mars. And this is happening in 26 June with, yeah. On the minute, the Uranus is going to be in the 10th and Mars is going to be in the 1st. And the Sun is going to be in the 12th, if you want the on the minute perfection. But of course, it gets into effect before and after, so I don't know how relevant is the on the minute chart. Mars Uranus. This aspect, well, the combination of Mars and Uranus, Mars has the passion, Uranus has the rebellious streak. Now, when they are conjoining, it can be a couple of rebels, very passionate rebels. When they are in a harmonized aspect, it can be actions that are revolutionary. When they are in square, it can actually be actions that are at odds with being rebellious and revolutionary. Okay, so there's the desire to be rebellious, and then there is the action which is kind of in alignment with the royalty, with the um, with the patriarchy to some extent, although it's more significated by Saturn. But there is also the solar patriarchy, with the leaders. Okay, so Mars is in the sign of the leaders, and then there are the rebels. Okay, that can also be a tension between the army that serves, that is loyal to the leader, and the people who, not the people, but the masses or the technology or some desire to be revolutionary. Uranus is not a significant aspect other than to Mars. So who is the Uranus on a personal planet level? How does it manifest? It's more like army versus technology, or something that is so decentralized you don't really see who are the people operating. It could also be some form of AI that we have this conflict with, or this dissonance that we need to hold. Okay, it can also be sudden action. Okay, Mars Uranus, definitely there's sudden action, but because of the square, then it is disruptive in a way that is not harmonious. Okay, two rebels are disruptive in a way that they have harmony with each other. Here, things do not, like, there is a dissonance to hold. um, and and again, there's way too much heat to hold the dissonance, and then Uranus just scatters it across the land. This is where I am concerned that there can be the type of events where there are forests being burnt. Okay, so forest burning, not necessarily as a terroristic attack. It can be an issue of the weather, but even as an act of force, something happens and so, and then the forest is being burned or the land is being burned. Unfortunately, that can be the case. There can be explosion. There can be volcanic explosion because Uranus is in an Earth sign, and Mars Uranus is, of course, this the ignition of a certain explosion. With the fixed sign, it can be more prolonged. Okay, so it's the type of, it's, if it's an earthquake, it's the type of earthquake that will have quite some aftershocks and pre-shocks. If it's an explosion, it can be a series of explosions. Um, could it be like terror or guerrilla? Well, I don't know. Like, it's not something that I know because Uranus is not coming to, like, it's, I don't know. I don't rule this out, but I don't know how to read it. Okay, so it's just like I don't have the knowledge to tell you that. So maybe that's one of the significations, but I don't know. And yeah, you got it. Now let's go to July, where Mars is still in Leo. And so Mars enters Virgo only on July 10th. We don't have any significant aspect of Mars before that. Now we noticed that we had basically Mars ingress now in May, so the Sun in Taurus, and then the Sun in Gemini, and then the beginning of the Sun in Cancer. Okay, the Sun reaches to 17 degrees of Cancer when Mars is still on the anaretic degree, the 59, 1 minute before it ingresses into Virgo. So this is Mars on Regulus. It is trined by the Moon here that applies to it, although the Moon is separated from a square with the Sun and with Pluto, and applying to a square with Pluto. We do have these inconjunct relations because Pluto is returning to the 29th to the anaretic degree of Capricorn, and Mars is in the 29th degree of Leo. So Mars is applying to Regulus, and that can literally be the aggression or assertion of Regulian figures. So, kings and queens. Um, and the inconjunct with Pluto tells me that you don't see it, it's a 150 degree angle. and oil. Okay, they don't really know how to mix together, and they can just cause disruption to one another. So the action of Mars is in a way relating to Pluto like fire and like water and oil. Okay, so whatever Mars tries to do, it doesn't reach Pluto, and whatever Pluto tries to do, it may not reach Mars, or there may be difficulty in the communication between the forces. Okay, if that is a person that wants to, let's say, press the red button to nuke somebody, so they can literally press the wrong button, and they either have a robot that brings them a cup of water, or nuking elsewhere. But that's sort of like, with Pluto ruling nukes, and Mars ruling the action, or like pulling the trigger. Venus is applying to this Mars. To tell you that I'm crazy over Venus in Leo, it's the attention whore aspect of the zodiac. It can be very beautiful on the eye, but then Venus needs some lubrication, and Venus needs a lot of lubrication, which is in Leo. So it's not something that naturally fits. You have to add water to it. You have to, and water, and fire are, water kills fire. Fire dries water. So although we do need fire, intimacy that is water, and we also need the type of intimacy that is fiery, that is desirous, those elements are not easily combined. Okay, and that's another relationship pondering, but also in the world. This is a time where when the Venusian runs dry, so we're gonna have to remedy it some way. And then the moon here is in Aries, right? And so Mars will be in Leo when the Sun is in Taurus. Okay, so this is where those leaders that Mars is ruled by are of Taurian nature. They could be women leaders, women kings, women performers. Um, they can be artists, they can be painters, they can be people who work with the body. That can range from sex workers to dancers, simply because of the sensual quality of Taurus. So it can be, so like the Beyonces, and it can also be, which Beyonce is also an earth sign sun, which is Virgo sun, with stellium in Libra, and it can also be people who work with finances, so financial leaders, okay, those type of leaders that we're going to see, or that the leaders are desiring to acquire more land, more finances, more sensual pleasure or whatnot, and that can be affected. Countries that can be affected most when the sun is in Taurus are countries like Israel and Ukraine, which have Taurus, significant Taurus placements. Okay, for Israel, the sun; for Ukraine, I think also the sun, but I don't remember. And then we have the sun, Mars in Leo, when the sun is in Gemini, so the sign of the twins. And then Mars is being ruled by solar figures pertaining to the solar figures that are of um, societal importance in a way. It can be youthful leaders, it can be youthful Martians, it can be even the type of soldiers that serve, that only come to the army, that only get to the army. Um, so in their first internship or their first year of service, kind of like the youth, because Mercury rules youth, those solar figures can be leaders in the trade or juristic system, both denoted by Mercury, cunning and trustworthy, and also childish and playful. And it can be tradespeople and merchants. So those leaders that Mars will be doing things for or in service of or to are those traders. So there can be more of trade wars at this time. People desiring to acquire rulership over digital coins. Perhaps countries might have digital coins that can be both in the Taurus still, and in Gemini is more relating to the technology, so regulating the technology around trade. Okay, regulating the ability to do agreements or international agreements, that can be another signification, and public transportation. So leaders or ministries, but ministry is more Saturn related because it's bureaucracy. It can be more people who are known and famous and do something with the public transportation or technology. The Elon Musks of the world, it can also be that. So the AI cars, the AI this, that can also be that. And those things will be involved in Mars-like situations. Either they try to do something, or they try, or something is done to them, or they severing ties, or they take initiation. So launching of projects can also happen. And then finally, we have the Sun in Cancer, which is the sign of the people. Have leaders that are of the people. Are they for the people, by the people? I don't know, but they can definitely arise from the people. Certain leaders can arise from the people, or certain leaders can come down to earth, can come down to the people and try to rule the people, to affect the people, to gain the trust of the people, or unfortunately to control the people, to use politics to control the people. This can also be all these various manifestations. Um, Mars on the 29th degree here, when it is aspect in the moon in Aries that is Mars ruled, it can mean that something happens with certain Regulian figures that is of Mars nature. So it's not like an eclipse or a keto. It's not necessarily that they're gonna die or anything like that. Can it be somebody that tries to assassinate someone like this? Yes, because Mars can be that, but it can also be that that Regulian person actually tries to operate in a Mars-like way. Will it be successful? I don't know. Okay, so this is pretty much um, what Mars is doing in Leo. Uh, Jupiter is going all the way to 10 degrees Taurus throughout this, but the beginning is more risky in terms of fundamentalism and fundamentalistic acts that are supposed to be mitigated by leaders with the Sun on Sedna. And that's pretty much the passage of Mars in Leo. All in all, the aspect to Uranus, which is still in effect here until the ingress to Virgo, is something that other than the ingress itself, which, like I said, it's powerful. Uh, that square with Uranus is something that I also believe we will hear about in the news, or not hear about in the news with the Pluto, if, with the Pluto in conjunct. Um, and the less than auspicious um, conjunction to Lilith, that the conjoining, if the conjoining of a Mars and Lilith energy kind of remind me of Aries. Okay, because Lilith is that ruthless gut feel and gut instinct, and Mars is the acting out of it. And so this is it's like it's like doing an equation where it equals Aries. So it equals Aries energy. All the while Aries is going to be, kind of around the end of Aries. So Mars will be applying to trine Aries, which is another thing to look at. And it's going from the square to Sedna, from the trine with Sedna to the sextile with Sedna to the square to Sedna. And that is a whole other story that I will need to look deeper into myself, to understand, to study it myself. Like I said, Sedna was on Algol during COVID. So, yeah, like during the break of COVID. So we can get what happens when Sedna conjoins a malefic. But other than that, I cannot say what I don't know how to delineate yet myself. Um, Definitely, Sedna is doing a lot. Aries is doing a lot. So that was Mars in Leo. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next episode.